They dress like satanic clergy, write pop hooks that would make ABBA proud, but still find a way to melt faces. I listened to every Ghost album to try to figure out what makes them so addictive and what might turn some people off to them. So if you've ever wondered where to start, what it all means, or why they've been called Scooby-Doo metal, I got you. Music was everything to me growing up, but somehow life got in the way, and for 15 years I barely listened to anything new. Now I'm 40 and I'm diving back in, one song, one album at a time, and sharing that journey with you. Welcome to Hendy Creek. Ghost is by far one of my favorite bands right now, and they've ascended to that spot really pretty quickly over the course of maybe just a month or two. And they're a band that I've known about for a long time, but had never really given much of a chance. And one of the reasons that I took so long to give them a chance was because it was so overwhelming. They had so much music, there was so much lore and story behind them that I just didn't know where to start. So today I figured I would help you out. If you're just now getting into Ghost, if you're curious of what they are, who they are, where to start, that's what this video is for. I'm going to go through the 5 main studio albums that they've released. I'll talk a little bit about the characters and some of the themes that you need to know to help you get started on this journey with what I think is one of the most exciting bands that we have going right now. And that said, if you already know the band, don't go away, because there might be something here for you too, or you can help contribute to this conversation, because this is going to be kind of a high level overview, bird's eye view, top down of what's going on in the world of Ghost. And if you have more information, something that you want to share, your favorite piece of lore, your favorite information, or tell us your favorite album, song, join the conversation, leave a comment, let us know. But otherwise, let's get going. I think the best way to do this is chronologically. So we'll start with their debut album, Opus Eponymous, which came out on October 10th of 2010. And this album really sets the stage for who the band is, and especially the kind of satanic image that they have going. It introduced them as kind of an anonymous band. Everyone was in costumes. It was fronted by this satanic papal figure that was named Papa Emeritus, and thematically it was about a coming darkness. There was, throughout the album there's this sense of a coming darkness, and it builds towards the end of the album, which concludes with the birth of the Antichrist. Musically, this lays the foundation for the band as well, and I think there's kind of like this push and pull, this tug of war between two opposing sides of this band's sound, which always come together to make it interesting. It's heavy but melodic. It's dark but very singable. This album, I think, has less of the arena rock sound that'll come later, but it does really heavily draw on influences from 80s metal. Personally, I've never really been a big fan of 80s metal, but here, in this context, it's fantastic. Songs that I like from this album include Conclavi con Dio, which is this very riffy but melodic and incredibly singable song that's just super sinister. I also like the song Elizabeth, which is a little bit more pretty. It's a little bit of a prettier song, but it still has this just evil sounding riff and some great falsetto singing parts that I really enjoyed. But it has this kind of eerie organ sound at parts in it, and I think this is where some of that like Scooby-Doo metal thing starts to come in, because the sound that they use from that organ definitely reminds me of a scene, that you might see in one of those old Scooby-Doo cartoons. Overall, I thought this was a very enjoyable album, a little rough around the edges, but a great way to set the stage and kind of prepare people for what this band is, what they're doing, and what they're going to become. The next album is called Infestissumam, and it came out on April 10th of 2013. And thematically, this picks up where Opus Eponymous kind of left off, where Opus Eponymous was about a coming darkness and ended with the birth of the Antichrist. Infestissumam is about a present darkness. It's something that is here and is current now, a current evil. The name means the most hostile or the biggest threat, and in this case, this is a reference to the Antichrist born at the end of Opus Eponymous, and the whole satanic thing here with the Antichrist and that sort of thing, I think is incredibly interesting to dive into. And there's a lot of fan theories, there's a lot of interesting thoughts around it. I am of the opinion that this is allegorical. I am of the opinion that they aren't like actively worshiping the devil or praising Satan or anything like that. I think this is an allegory. It's a story. It's a metaphor for a lot of things that are going on in the world in one way or another. This constant sense of dread and doom that we have, the feeling that things are getting worse, that things are bad. I think the presence here of the devil is a convenient structure for them to explore themes and ideas that they want to talk about and do it in a little bit more of a theatrical and maybe controversial way. On this album, we're also introduced to the idea that the position of Papa Emeritus, the singer, the front person of the band, is potentially a rotating position, as a papal figure would be, where, you know, a pope, or in this case, the Papa Emeritus, is promoted to that position and is eventually, for one reason or another, leaves that position, whether they died or are run out of the position and are replaced by a new Papa Emeritus, because in this album, it is Papa Emeritus 2. Ostensibly, this is an entirely new frontman, new singer. We'll get to that a little bit later because there's a little bit more to it than just that. But just suffice it to say for now that the singer for this album is Papa Emeritus 2. Musically, I like how this album opens with kind of a tone-setting instrumental that then catapults it. I mean, it really just launches right into the second track, the first real song, Per Aspera ad Inferni. I really enjoy that aspect of it. It's something that they come back to a couple of times, not on every album, but I like it when they do this with that opening kind of tone-setting song that then launches into the first real track of the album. The rest of the way, I really like the song Year Zero. Again, it's a very riffy metal song with a good groove. I think as a whole, this album felt a little different to me. It kind of pulled from a wide range of styles and genres and influences. It was much less focused on the guitar. It was much less focused on that, 80s metal sound. It was a little bit more theatrical, more theater. It felt like a step, I wouldn't say backwards, but a step in a different direction from the first album. Overall, still really enjoyed it, but a little bit of a different album. After that, on August 21st of 2015, we got the album Meliora. And this one moves kind of in a different thematic direction, but musically back in the direction of Opus Eponymous, where thematically Opus Eponymous was the coming darkness and Infestissumam was the present and current darkness. This album, Meliora, is more about the absence of God. And again, I think this is allegorical. I think it's about the struggles and challenges that we all face when we have a crisis of meaning or identity or purpose, where God is a substitute for those things. The title itself, Meliora, means the pursuit of something better. So I think that kind of fits in with my allegorical interpretation of what all of this means. In terms of the band's lineup, this continues the rotation of that frontman position of Papa Emeritus, where Papa Emeritus 2 was removed at the end of the album cycle for Infestissumam and replaced by Papa Emeritus 3 on this album, who is apparently Papa Emeritus 2's younger brother by a couple of months, by like 3 months. Not exactly sure how that's supposed to work out. But personally, I kind of love how these personas and costumes are kind of evolving and changing over time and evolving with the music from album to album. Musically, like I said, this album is much more back in the direction of Opus Eponymous with that, guitar-driven metal sound. There are just some headbangers on this album. Spirit, the opening track on this album, I think is just killer. It's kind of the concept of spirit and how it fits with the idea of the theme of the album. But also, I think maybe there's a potential that spirit here also means spirits, like liquor. There are references in this song to absinthe and wormwood. It just fits in the way that people cope with the absence or loss of meaning in their lives. From the Pinnacle to the Pit is just a killer song too. It's got this awesome overdriven bass sound. Cerise is epic. Mummy Dust is sinister and heavy. Majesty is marching and brooding. Absolution is just demonic. Overall, I think this is the album where the band really kind of sets out their sound and the direction that they're going to be moving with for the next, this came out in 2015. So for the next 10 years at least, this album kind of sets off that direction for where they're going. On June 1st of 2018, the band released the album Prequelle. I think that's how you say it. I don't think it's Prequelle. I think it's Prequelle. At this point, it makes sense to stop and talk a little bit more about that Papa Emeritus figure, because between the release of Meliora previously and Prequelle here, Tobias Forge was outed as the front man. It was because of a lawsuit. I'm not sure all of the details of that, but the identity of Papa Emeritus had been revealed as Tobias Forge. And he has been every iteration of Papa Emeritus from the beginning. Each new Papa Emeritus was just a new character, but continuously played by Tobias Forge. And even now, when he's doing interviews, he will do interviews as Tobias Forge, without the makeup, without the costume, just as himself. And they're interesting to watch because the Tobias Forge that you see in these interviews is very different from the character of Papa Emeritus, whatever iteration, variation of that character is current. And I think that's really interesting because he seems to, be one person in his normal everyday life, but really embody and take on the character when he's working with the band, which is it's really cool. For this album, Forge created the character of Cardinal Copia, which is a bit of a breakaway from the Papa Emeritus figure. So Cardinal Copia is the new front man of the band at this point. But thematically, this album kind of centers on the idea of surviving through tumultuous times. They were really influenced by the plague and medieval themes, and there are a lot of reflections on morality and mortality here, especially mortality. Musically, this album just rocks. It continues in the melodic arena metal direction, and a ton of these songs they're just killer songs. I love the song Rats. It's it plays into that plague theme that they're going for. It's heavy. It makes you want to pump your fist in the air and sing along and chant along. I really like that song. Dance Macabre was a big song from this album. It's kind of like disco metal. I kept thinking that song is like that Kiss song, I Was Made for Loving You, but good. It's just a really good song. Pro Memoria is a great kind of slower song that feels like a demonic musical theater number. It's another reminder of our mortality. And then the album ends with the song Eternal Life. This is an epic song with kind of a classical feel. It asks, if you were given the chance to have eternal life, would you take it? It's just a great ending track. And finally, the most recent album as of this recording, which I'll say more about in a minute, is Impera, which came out on March 11th of 2022. Now, this album brings back Cardinal Copia, but Cardinal Copia has been promoted to the position of Papa Emeritus IV. So we have a new Papa Emeritus here. Thematically, this kind of revolves around the rise and fall of empires. And musically, this really leans into the 80s arena glam rock metal thing, which is very much not my thing. I think I said that earlier. That sort of thing wasn't for me. I didn't really care for it, but I absolutely love this. It takes a lot of those kind of musical tropes that were big with those sorts of bands in the 80s, but it adds bucket loads of sincerity and interesting lyrical concepts and just face-melting solos. I think Spillways is a good example of this on this album. Same with Call Me Sunshine, which was a big song from here. It has this huge sound and this kind of stomp clap breakdown in the middle that I think must have just been amazingly huge at their shows. Most importantly here with this album, I think this one represents a very significant step forward in their songwriting and song crafting ability. The songs here just feel tight and well crafted and purpose driven. And really, that's not to say that the previous albums, the songs on the previous albums weren't good, because they really were. This is just a significant step up from something that was already pretty good. But so those are the 5 full-length studio albums and a little bit of the themes and characters that you meet along the way. And again, this is not intended to be a full breakdown of all of the ins and outs of the band. There's a lot of other music out there. They had singles and one-offs and B-sides and soundtrack contributions. There are even other short-lived identities for Papa Emeritus in there too. But this was just kind of meant to be a high-level overview, top-down bird's eye view of the band to give you just a sense of direction if you're interested in getting started with this journey. But then, of course, the big question here is where do I start? There's 5 albums here. I just gave a little bit of an overview of each one, but it's still confusing and it's hard to know where to start. So I think what I would say is start with Impera, the currently most recent album. It gives a good sense of where they are now and where they end up with their sound. That being said, as of recording this, they do have a new album coming out. Skeleta is due to be released in just a couple of days. So this is a good place to kind of jump in with the band with the new album coming out. But if I were just getting started again, and this is actually pretty much what I did not all that long ago, start with Impera, listen to where they are now, and then go back to the beginning and listen through in chronological order. Start with Opus Eponymous, and then Infestissumam, Meliora, Prequelle, and then Impera. And by the time you get through all those, maybe Skeleta will be out and you can listen to that. It's not out yet though, so I don't really want to say too much about it because I've only heard the 2 singles. But that's the way I would do it. I would start with Impera and then go back to the beginning and listen through in order. But hopefully that gives you an idea of where we're at with this band. Just kind of, again, a bird's eye overview of who they are and what they're all about and the music that they've put out so far. If you're interested in checking out more with this band, especially my reactions, check out my reaction video to their new single, Lacrima. It comes from their new album, Skeleta, which again comes out in a couple of weeks, a couple of days at this point. Wow. Yeah, a couple of days at this point. Really looking forward to that new album. I really am excited about this band, and I really hope that you get excited about them too, because they're phenomenal. I hope you enjoy the ride. Leave a comment, let me know if you do get into them, what was your favorite album. If you already know the band, what's your favorite album? What's your favorite piece of lore that maybe I glossed over or didn't cover here? Let me know. Let's have a conversation. I'm just so excited about this band. But until next time, I'm Kyle, and I've got some music to listen to.